Hello and welcome back. In this week's episode I'm keeping things local, so local in fact that every bit of footage and still image in this episode was taken within walking distance of my house. I've always preferred to do all of my reconnaissance on foot. Just being outside, moving slower and fully connected to nature puts me in a much more receptive state of mind. And I became a landscape photographer many years ago off the back of my love of walking in mountainous terrain. So being out and about on foot is really what it's all about for me. I don't take my camera every time I go out locally, but often make a few record shots of things I find along the way with my phone as a reminder to return at some future date. If I see a footpath sign to somewhere I've not been before, I'll always take that path to go and have a little look to see what I might find. In this case, an old brick building that might be good for details at some point in the future. I live in a relatively rural area, so there's always farm machinery, old vehicles, old buildings and things to look at. In a time where many still seem happy to jump in a car in the dead of night and maybe drive for hours to get to a location in the hope of a handful of images, I prefer to make any visit to a distant location a multiple day trip. And I keep my local photography for all those days when I only have a morning or evening free to head out. The biggest advantage I've found by really getting to know my locality is that I've already got a location in mind to photograph when conditions really get good, as happened in the snowfall last November. Autumn here in the UK is a given, but with our maritime climate, winter can be very fickle, so any chance of photographing snow or frost can't be missed. I had a small local wood to visit and photograph, somewhere I knew really well, having been countless times already. While a snowy visit to Kinver or Cannock Chase would have been great, I'm more than happy with what I found just 9 minutes walk from home. So this image was made on what had been a really quite dreary, grey, drizzly day. I've been walking around the lanes and kind of exploring again, and on this occasion I've gone through a brand new path through the centre of this little patch of woodland, and then the sun obviously out to the west had dropped into a gap in the clouds, and all of a sudden everything just lit up, and I wasn't really in a great spot to take anything wider, and I decided really just to enjoy the light streaming through the trees, the backlit leaves, and out into the fields beyond you can see the kind of hazy sunlit drizzle that was still falling. I launched the drone as well on this occasion and made a couple of images, or made a bit of footage of a rainbow over the village, but I think this is probably my favourite image from that particular day. So it's really hard to believe actually that literally only 2 weeks later the same patch of woodland looked like this. I absolutely love winter woodland photography. With frost or snow, whichever conditions, it's just always amazing to get out and experience it. But much rarer in the UK is kind of winter conditions in autumn, so they are really very special. The last time I had a go, and I made a terrible mess of it, was up in Glengarry in Scotland. I'd driven all the way from Oban, 75 miles to a patch of woodland beside Loch Ness, and made a couple of images. One actually was fairly successful across a river with a kind of waterfall in the foreground and some autumn colour at the back, but there was no snow in that one. Another one that had snow in, unfortunately, because I was shooting Fuji Velvia, was a really tricky kind of exposure to make, and I don't think, looking back on it, it was very successful. But to get these conditions this last year was fantastic, and probably my first opportunity to go out and photograph autumn colour and snow at the same time here in the UK for a long time. So this image, really, I just wanted to capture the gold surrounded by the cold hues of winter. And the second image with a beautiful beech tree and a pine to kind of add a bit of kind of textural interest, with mixed woodland at the back of it as well. It was just really fabulous to be there. I could have stayed there for days and days and days. As it happened, the following day the sun was out and the condition weren't as good, and the day after that it had all gone. And the chances are we won't have conditions like that again, probably for, well, who knows, a couple of years. And finally, I wanted to include a drone image, still image from my drone. I actually bought a drone originally to make stills, kind of abstract of farmland and so on, and I'm now finding I'm doing a lot more filming with it. But this particular image really was an illustration of how spectacular conditions can make perhaps the most mundane things beautiful. This was a December sunrise. That snow had passed through in November, and we'd gone back to autumn again, effectively. So I flew the drone out from the edge of the village and just to see what was there, and my goodness me, it was pretty spectacular. And as I said before in the previous episode, I'm not going to do any kind of analysis of my images in these type of episodes, and I'm going to save that up for a future one. So I may well talk a little bit about putting this image together and so on, along with some of the others in a future episode. Thank you very much for watching. And please, if you can, hit the like and subscribe buttons to support my channel. Thank you very much.